changing seats with Sharon as the new counselor for that. Okay. All right. So, Daniel, welcome and tell us about yourself.
Oh, thank you. As you already know, my name's Daniel Benjamin, and I've lived on Brown Road, Northeast Salem, pretty close to 10 years, and have worked with the community in many different aspects. One is neighborhood association, which I am the chairman now. Also, I've worked with, or working with on the board, Habitat for Humanity, and a couple of other organizations, Liberty House, I'm volunteering there, and so I've been more connected with my community lately than I ever have been. And I find it pays great rewards in seeing and helping people attain certain things they never thought were possible. Part of it is being like budgeting, saving, earning money, finding out the aspects of financials that they otherwise had no access to. Father of two, husband of one. Husband to one.
Same one. That's good. All right.
I can go on.
Well, maybe if you'd like to just say a little bit about why you're interested in being on the budget committee.
Well, it was kind of presented to me that there was an opening for the budget committee, and because of my career deals so much in regards to budgets and being able to allocate funds for various purposes. And I thought it would be actually quite fitting for me to have a position where I can learn more about a larger budget and how it incorporates with the city, and then therefore it kind of brings it down to more of a personal level, so I can understand both a large and smaller budget and being able to allocate funds and be a part of that.
Great. We want to introduce Councillor Dan Clem. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Dan Clem.
I like him already.
Yeah, good name.
And Dan represents Ward 8, which is over in the West Salem area.
Welcome. Apologize for
Thank you.
hurrying us.
All right. Okay. We have some questions that are in front of you, I believe. So we'll just start in. The first question is, what is your understanding of the role of the Budget Committee member?
From what I understand, it's a Budget Committee member is made up of citizens being able to voice concerns or being able to have input on a city budget. So once a city budget is kind of presented, that the citizens have an opportunity to look it over and make recommendations, being able to help the decision-making process, and then understanding so they can kind of tell the people in their area about why these decisions were made.
Okay. Councillor Bennett, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dan, what do you think are the biggest budget challenges and concerns facing the city?
I would believe it's more of an income problem. The biggest part, or the biggest problem concerning the budget would be a matter of income, because if jobs have gone down, therefore there's less taxes being collected, or revenue, if you will, and therefore allocations have to be somewhat scrutinized to the maximum efficiency, and I think I can help be able to ascertain the various allocations of funding, and prioritizing.
Councillor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dan, I'm going to ask you a question that's not on the sheet here, but I'll tell you, when I first started getting in the budget process, it's a big learning curve, and I just want to make sure you're willing to commit the time for it. I mean, the binder is, that thick, two-sided, and it's a whole lot of reading and really trying to figure out where the money's going from here to there, and oh my gosh, it makes my head spin still too. And it's a big commitment, and especially on your first time around, and you know, I don't know if you've seen the budget calendar that is being revised a little bit here, but we've got quite a few meetings up front to try and help us get associated and understand what's going on with the budget and what are the changes from previous years. And, you know, I don't know if we have a total number of meetings added up, but it's a lot. So I just want to make sure you're available and willing to spend the time and make that commitment.
Well, sure. I mean, basically, my career affords me to allocate my time in various avenues. So usually the chairman of the board of my neighborhood association, that's like 2 hours a month. Habitat for Humanity is roughly 2 hours a month. Some of the non-for-profits I volunteer for, again, 2 hours a month. So when it comes to being able to dedicate time to this, I'm going to have to, and I want to. Are we talking like 5 hours a day, or is this a matter of 5 hours a week?
It all depends on how much you want to put into it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we're looking at weekly meetings for 3 weeks, I think, here, and then we've got some more, a couple in February, and then we really start up hard in April. April, May, and June is pretty much booked out. You know, one meeting a week, about 2 hours per, but then you've got quite a bit of homework too. So.
Sure. Oh yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. Thank you.
Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan, your career, I'm sorry, I arrived late, so you had indicated your career would help.
Financial services professional, New York Life.
Oh, okay, super, thanks.
He's conveniently located across the street. I see that as a real asset. Right. Let's see. One of our other questions was describe what you think is the importance of the public input for the city's budget. We councilors, we come because it's part of the role that we've been elected to, but what do you think of the citizen involvement as a member, and what you think also is important as far as the rest of the public and their voice, hearing their voice?
Right. Basically, the importance of having a citizen budget committee seems to be that because these are the people's monies that are being allocated to various services and whatnot, it's probably nice to have non-elected citizens, if you will, to be a part of that process, to bring forward maybe some better ideas, if you will, or at least be able to understand why certain decisions are made, and then be able to tell the various folks in the neighborhoods or the wards or whatnot to say, you know, this is the reason why. And then it's easier to hear it from a citizen than it would be from an elected official in many cases these days.
I appreciate your insight about carrying the message out to the community. I do think that's an important role that we all have.
Very important.
Okay, are there other questions from councilors? I think we've,
Pretty much answered the other
I
ones
think-
in his opening
I think so.
introduction, so
I think so. All right.
excellently done. He must
Thank you.
have been snuck a copy for me.
He did answer questions, actually, and they're in your binder. And so we had a chance to look at those ahead of time as
Well,
well.
I noticed that they were the same question and answer earlier, and I just
Right,
couldn't
I
remember
know,
exactly
we're-
what my answers were.
All right, if there are no further questions of Mr. Benjamin, then we'll recess, and then during the council meeting, we actually move forward a motion and make the appointment. So,
Thank you.
thank you again for being here. I should introduce to you also Linda Norris, our city manager.
Yes, nice to meet you.
And do you have some staff
Pleasure to meet
you
you.
would like to introduce to him?
Of course. Casey Duncan is the deputy city manager, and I actually was going to introduce individually to you Christy Worster, to all the councilors, because she's new as our franchise revenue administrator and assistant to the city manager. So we'll come down and do that more formally. Vicki Woods, community development director. And then we have some of our parks and transportation staff here because they're doing the next work session on our parks master plan.
Great.
Which has budgetary effects.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mike Gutterbach, who's important for you to know, he works in Public Works and the City Manager's Office on public information and a lot of communication issues.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate you coming this evening. Now, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
Competition will be
And
tough.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
It will be on CCTV, Channel 21.
I'm rushing home right now.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Are you ready? We are. You are. Okay. Take it away.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, and members of the Salem Planning Commission. My name is Mark Bechtel. I'm the Parks and Transportation Services Manager at Salem Public Works, and it's my pleasure tonight to open up this work session on the Comprehensive Park System Master Plan. The purpose of the work session is to highlight some of the key elements of this new update to our plan, and to give you a chance to ask some questions and to become familiar with it as we enter into the adoption phase. There's two documents on your desks. The first is a summary of changes that between the 1999 Comprehensive Park System Plan, which is the currently adopted plan, and the plan that's proposed. And then the other document on your desk is a copy of the draft plan document. And for your reading pleasure between now and the rest of the adoption phase. In the way of review, this effort actually started several years ago, but the most recent effort to get it going and get it adopted began in the fall of 2010, where Council appointed a Parks Revenue and Master Plan Task Force, which was made up of members of both the community and members of the City Council. We want to thank, on behalf of staff, we want to thank Councilors Diana Dickey, who chaired that task force, and Councilors Laura Tesler and Brad Nanke, who attended many meetings, as well as Councilors Clem and Bennett, who also attended some meetings. Before I go any further, I want to take this opportunity to introduce some staff to you. With me is Keith Keever, the Park Superintendent for Parks Operations and Planning. Tony Whitler, an administrative analyst with us, who's helped us with the public outreach and efforts. And Tracy Johnson, who is a consultant from Vihil Grimace, who has done a tremendous job helping us put together this plan. As we worked through this process of developing the plan, we had a previous council work session in October of 2010. Then we embarked a fairly extensive public outreach process, which took us through the rest of the fall of 2011. And then, I'm sorry, we had our council work session in 2011 in October. We then went forward and had an extensive public outreach process the remainder of that fall and into the winter of 2012. And we really worked hard to bring this effort out to the public and to the different service organizations. We've met several times with the Salem Home Builders, the Home Builders Association of Marion and Polk County, the Chamber of Commerce, the neighborhood associations, the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and the Salem Parks Foundation. And each of those groups had representatives on the task force as well. Some of the key highlights of this plan, and something that you're going to notice is different, is this plan really integrates two levels of service for parks planning. It integrates the acres per thousand level of service that many of you are used to looking at when looking at a parks plan, but it also looks at facility level of service. Not only how many acres of parks do we have, but what do we do with those acres? How do we match up our need for facilities with the need for park acreage? Another key element is pre-development. We have an inventory of undeveloped park acreage in the city here that needs to be developed. And given our financial constraints, one of the concepts that you will see presented to you tonight is the concept of pre-development, which is to bring a park into a state of usable status without having to fully develop it, but to get it usable for the public. One of the things that I'd like to stress is that we as staff recommend that council look at this parks master plan as a vision as to where we want to bring and take our park system in our community. We would ask you to review and adopt this master plan as kind of a vision for the community. We would then want to bring back to you later this year a parks funding strategy, which then brings back to you an updated parks systems development charge methodology, recommendations for potential future general obligation bonds for park facilities, and a strategy for park maintenance and operation. But we really want to focus at this time on that overall picture, that overall framework of where we want our park system to be. After this work session, we plan to come back with a future report to council with an ordinance and first reading and referral to the Planning Commission in late January, early February. Have the Planning Commission review and make recommendations on the plan, and hopefully have it back to the City Council in April of this year. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Keith Keever, and he's going to bring you through some more particulars of the Parks Master Plan.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, I'm going to go through some slides here, and you can follow along on either screen, whichever is easiest to look at. First, I'd like to give you a brief overview of what we've accomplished since the adoption of the '99 Master Plan. As you can see, we have acquired many park properties since 1999. We have constructed many parks, including River Road Park and Gear Park, as well as Hoodview Park, which has just been completed in Northeast Salem. Other park developments include Pringle Hall, Center 50 Plus, and numerous various improvements at Riverfront Park. We have several master plans in the works, including Battle Creek, Minto Brown, and McKay Parks. We are currently redeveloping Fairmount Park, as well as numerous Salem Park Improvement Fund projects. Okay, now I want to shift your attention to the Comprehensive Park System Master Plan. So how do we use the master plan? We use it for park planning, acquisition, and development. It is a structured process to assure that when we build a park, it meets the needs and desires of the community. The master plan update was steered by a task force made up of city councilors, Parks Board members, Parks Foundation member, representatives of the Chamber of Commerce, home builders, Hispanic community, as well as several citizen members throughout the community. We had help from the Trust for Public Lands early on in this process, and they produced these two documents for us, which helped us guide the plan. We hired the consultant firm MIG to assist with public surveys and various pre-plan analyses and assessments. We had a significant amount of public involvement during this update. We went to all of the neighborhood associations, had a public open house, and met directly with stakeholder groups. The previous plan was completed in 1999. We've been working from that plan ever since, and this new update will take us out to the year 2035. The current population used in the master plan is based on the 2010 census, and the 2035 population projection uses the SCATS population estimates, which includes the entire planning area, which goes out to the current urban growth boundary. So you can see we're going to be at 272,000 people by then. We developed a vision and mission statement, and that's located in the draft plan. It's rather lengthy, so I didn't include it here. Parks are classified based on their use. Neighborhood parks are the most basic park classification. The goal of the master plan is that every citizen of Salem have a neighborhood park within a half-mile of their home. They're generally about 5 acres in size and provide basic park facilities. Community parks serve a broader area and usually include sports fields and courts such as basketball, baseball, and soccer. Urban parks are generally a regional draw and include unique facilities that serve the entire community. Other classifications include linear parks and connector trails, special use facilities, historic areas, and natural areas. In this update to the master plan, we have reviewed some of these classifications. We realize that with large urban parks having a minimum park size of 50 acres, many significant parks were not included in this category. A good example of this is Riverfront Park. We renamed the category urban park, dropping the term large from the name and excluded size as the criteria and more focused on the function of the park rather than size. We also changed the service area of community parks from 3 miles to citywide to allow more flexibility in where these parks may be located, and because they usually provide the active recreation facilities to serve the entire community. Finally, we redefined trails to distinguish city-owned land from trails on public rights-of-way. This will allow opportunities for other funding. Several parks were reclassified to better meet the functions of these 3 main park classes. An example is Riverfront Park, which used to be classified as a special use area. And as you can see, we reclassified several. We also took a look at recreational facilities and have added these facilities, which were not included in the 99 master plan. Some were brand new, some were just not included. One of the planning tools we use in park planning is this table, which describes the facilities that are suitable for each park type. 3 definitions are used if you look at the bottom of the table: standard facility, optional facility, and facilities that are not appropriate. So for example, if you look across the top line, neighborhood park, picnic tables, playgrounds, and trails are examples of standard facilities. Tennis, basketball, and picnic shelters are optional, and splash fountains are not appropriate for a neighborhood park. The 99 master plan did not have service level standards for recreational facilities, so we established them. This is what Mark was talking about at the beginning. So for example, if you look at the top line of this chart, baseball field 80 to 90 foot, you can see we currently have 4 fields in Salem parks. I know that sounds surprising. We only have 4, but that's the truth. This equates to a service level of 1 field for every 38,659 residents in Salem. After a detailed analysis of all providers in Salem, including the school district and private providers, and a careful assessment of user demands in Salem, we developed a service level standard of 1 field for every 20,000 residents. So what that means is that we need 4 additional fields now, and we'll need an additional 6 fields by 2035. And so you can look through the rest of the table there to see the level of service we've established for all those different park facilities. Along with the facility service levels, we created maps which show the geographic distribution of the various recreation facilities. This includes facilities owned by the city, school district, and other providers. This is a map of the soccer fields. Each area that contains soccer fields is shown with a little triangle. So the reddish-looking triangles are city-owned. The school district fields are in blue, and other providers are in orange. An example of that is one here, some up here, over here. So we made these maps for each facility type, such as soccer, baseball, and softball. This is an additional planning tool that will be used to evenly distribute recreational facilities around the city. Now we take a look at level of service. Level of service is a method of determining how many parks are needed now and into the future. This is a standard measure of parkland used by most park and recreation providers. Level of service is established by determining how many acres of parkland are needed per 1,000 residents. This process allows for future park needs as the city's population increases. And let me illustrate. Level of service is established for 3 park types: neighborhood, community, and urban. As you can see, the 99 plan had a level of service for neighborhood parks of 2.5 acres per 1,000 residents, community parks at 2.5 acres per 1,000, and urban parks at 3 acres per 1,000 residents. Level of service was not established for other park classifications. Neighborhood, community, and urban parks fulfill the basic needs of the community. Bear in mind that all these are plan goals, not where we currently are. So where are we today? As you can see, we currently have 3.8 acres per 1,000 people total for all developed parks, and we have a total of 5.21 acres per 1,000 if we include all of our undeveloped parks. We currently have 217 acres of parkland that are undeveloped within those 3 classifications. And how do we compare to other cities? Salem is in the first column of this table, with other cities around Oregon and Washington shown in other columns. These numbers are for total parks, including undeveloped parks. As you can see, Salem is a little behind the average for comparable cities. And this is a table showing all park types, including those that we don't count for level of service. That includes natural areas and such. And so if you look at that chart, Salem is at 12.5 acres per 1,000, and again, we're just a little below the average for the area. We also mapped the current service areas of neighborhood parks as shown here. The reddish color denotes areas served by an existing neighborhood park, and the gray areas show areas served by undeveloped parks that we currently own. The light yellow areas are residential areas that are unserved by neighborhood parks. Those are areas where we need to find additional parkland to serve Salem residents. So if you look up in the area just south of the big green, that's Minto Brown Park. This is the Candelaria area right here. It would, one park generally in the middle of that would serve that entire area very well. It would generally be about 5 acres. After a significant amount of analysis and then discussion with the task force, a new level of service has been established. The draft plan recommends 2.25 acres per 1,000 for neighborhood parks, 2.25 acres per 1,000 for community parks, and 2.5 acres per 1,000 for urban parks, for a total of 7 acres per 1,000. One of the analyses we did was take a close look at how many unserved areas there currently are within the city limits. This revealed a need for 15 additional neighborhood parks today. Based on the previous level of service of 2.5 acres per 1,000, we would need an additional 25 neighborhood parks today to fill that need. The 2.25 acres per 1,000 gets us closer to the actual need of 15 neighborhood parks. So that was some of the criteria we used to decide to lower those level of service. The 99 master plan included 4 awkwardly worded key questions as the basis for policies. We redefined them into 4 goals and streamlined the policies to reflect current objectives. We also introduced a new concept in the master plan, which we call predevelopment. We have a lot of undeveloped parks in our park system, and it garners a lot of complaints by area residents because they're undeveloped. Predevelopment is a new policy whereby we will pre-develop all new parks within 2 years of acquisition. Predevelopment includes constructing basic minimal park improvements to make the park usable by the community until funds are available for full park development to occur. As a minimum, we would construct soft trails, provide picnic tables, mutt dispenser and trash cans, and grade and seed an open area for field activities. We have also included other optional facilities as well, and you can see those on the current slide. We spent a lot of time discussing park priorities. Priorities that were incorporated into the new plan include developing all of the undeveloped parks, renovating older park facilities, and meeting the recreational facility needs of the community through the use of the facility service level guideline that was established. Based on the recommended level of service, this table shows the park acreage needed now and in the year 2035. We need a total of 277 acres now, and we'll need an additional 827 acres by 2035. The plan includes a proposed project list, which is based on the following criteria: areas unserved by a park, acreage needed, recreational needs, and geographic distribution. This is the proposed park map, which gives a general idea of where new parks are needed for each of the 3 park types. Neighborhood parks are in magenta, community are in orange, and urban parks are in blue. And again, that's just a general distribution. We look around to do an analysis to see where there may be parkland available. When we actually go out and try to find those sites, we expect they'll change based on what we're able to find. Our operations and maintenance funding currently comes from the city's general fund, transient occupancy tax, and gas tax, as well as some user fees. Parks operations makes extraordinary use of volunteers to the equivalent of 86 full-time employees. For capital funding, sources include system development charges, grants, and donations. Potential funding sources includes a GEO bond, local option levy, and potentially park service fees. So this concludes my presentation of the Comprehensive Park System Master Plan, and we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Keith. That was an excellent report on a large amount of information. We appreciate how you were able to condense that for us. I want to be sure to say, again, a sincere thank you to all the people who served on that task force and all of the hours that the staff worked with them in developing this plan. Now we will have questions for counselors, unless there are other staff reports to go with this. Is that it?
No, we're here to answer your questions,
Okay.
or if you wish
All
to
right.
discuss any items.
Questions? All right. Counselor Dickey, did you have your hand up? Oh, all right. Counselor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to all the members who worked on this. It's a big deal for Salem, and to Councilor Dickey for chairing this, too. My question, I remember this came up in conversation a while ago. I don't remember if it was just conversation around or if it was on the floor, but it's about the level of service, and I appreciate the focus on it, and the reduction of the level of service from 2.5 acres per thousand to 2.25. And I think the conversation was around the reality of doing this, and I'm seeing that currently we would be at a deficit of 277 acres still. And I don't know, are we setting a goal, or, 277 acres is a lot of land. And we don't have any money to buy. I mean, at what level do we start talking about reality versus a kind of a dream goal, or, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, I guess.
Well, Councilor, and Keith and I are going to tag team on this here, but one, we actually do have money to purchase park property. Because we charge a park system development charge, we find ourselves in a situation where we do have a modest amount of money to buy parkland as it becomes available. What we tend to lack most is park operations and maintenance funding. So one of the things we wanted to really stress was that just because we're in a budget crunch right now does not mean that we intend to be for the next 35 years or 25 years. So we want to make sure we have that vision or goal way out front for the community to try to attain. You know, we tried to find a level of service that reflected reality, and as Keith pointed out, if you look at the map of where the gaps are in the neighborhood park system, we found about, it was like 13 or 15, 15 realistic gaps. And if you average 3 to 5 acres per park property, that gets you the most realistic upfront goal. Then as development occurs over time, we're going to continue to add parkland inventory as development occurs. And I might add, one of the assumptions that we made with this planning effort is that in 25 years, by the year 2035, our UGB will likely have expanded to some degree. And so we are assuming, our assumptions were made largely on population, more so than acreage within the UGB. We assume there'll be some kind of expansion, and we'll be able to continue to acquire properties, as development occurs. So it is a lofty goal, but if we don't have those lofty goals, we don't have anything to strive for.
And I would add to that, if I could, we always want to keep our plan level of service goal out in front of us. If we set the level of service with where we are today, that would allow us no opportunity to acquire land through system development charges, because we always have to, it always has to be out in front of us. Okay, so there's a good reason to have it out there, and this is a plan. It's a goal to meet an ideal. Even if we can't meet it exactly like we would like to by 2035, at least we have a plan in place with some logical criteria to try to accomplish that, and the funding method to go with that.
Okay. A follow-up, if I may. Definitely the point about keeping a goal out there is well stated. I agree with that. I guess a couple questions might be on the total acreage level of service that we currently have. Is that developed or undeveloped? I'm looking at chart 4.1 on page 47. It says 1.74 on the neighborhood parks, and our standard would be 2.
That's total, including undeveloped.
Including undeveloped. Okay. So a question I have then is, and this is a conversation we've had in South Salem, is, we kind of have some land that we own that we've never developed, and partially because we don't have money to maintain it, which is why we haven't developed a lot of parks, but partially they're in kind of awkward spots. Is staff always looking for the ability to, we've got I'm thinking of one right off the top of my head off of Wiltsey that's a real awkward spot, and it probably wouldn't ever make a good park because the access is so hard. What about selling that, getting something different would be one part of the question. The other part is, if we have money available to buy ground, at least kind of reserve it as we go forward. Do we do that on a regular basis?
Answer a couple of your questions at a time. The Wiltsey Park property is probably one of a couple properties that we might consider surplusing at some point. Most of the park properties have been well thought out in how they were acquired. There were some that the manner in which they were acquired became awkward, and we've ended up with parcels that may not be ideal. But one of the analyses we did was to look at each park property and see if it really met our needs as far as development. So that particular parcel that you brought out could be considered for surplusing. We need to go through a process to do that, especially with the Battle Creek property not that far away. The other one is refresh my memory on the other question there.
Do we kind of preemptively buy, if we kind of have a war chest for buying park land, do we preemptively buy it as things come available? And like you mentioned, if the UGB were to grow out or development were to happen, I would hope we could at least buy the ground and get it reserved and get our stamp on it at least.
Yeah, Keith, go ahead and outline how the process we acquire property. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, if you looked at the slide of all the parks we've acquired since '99, there's quite a few. And so, one of the goals was filling the infill that we needed. We had all those holes that we talked about. But also, we look for those kinds of opportunities. If we land's a lot cheaper out there in, farmland out on the edges. Once it gets brought in, becomes developable, it gets more expensive. So it makes a lot of sense to try to acquire that land early on. That's actually part of the reason we have, so much undeveloped park property, and there's some other reasons, but that was one of them. Because ideally you buy a piece of land before there's really any development around it, but you don't want to develop it until there's somebody around. So our planning criteria calls for you have to have 50% build out around that park before you build it, and that's one of our criteria we use in planning.
Okay.
Councillor Clem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got two questions. Mark, Keith, thanks for the presentation. Trails. I'm thinking of the Bonneville power lines. How do we account for really having a trail system now in this plan?
We have a trails map,
Right.
and it's in your packet there.
So
We didn't highlight it on here, just
Out of time.
just didn't have enough time to
Got it.
cover all
So
the
it's-
details. But we have a trails plan.
The opportunities for new trails are in there to include the Minnow Brown Island Bridge linking all three
Yes,
parks?
those are all included.
Okay.
BPA has been identified. We also, we took this latest update to the transportation plan, the bike walk portion. We took their entire trails plan.
Okay.
Okay, the part that's served, for park purposes, and we incorporated that in our trails plan for the master plan. We also included other trail segments that it didn't include that we had identified. So we've covered a lot of those bases. I must say we don't have a very strong funding mechanism built into that. We don't. It's not a level of service, so we don't have SDCs. At least that's not what's being proposed. So.
But I think in the undeveloped parks, the partial development or intermediate development could include soft trails, just an expansion
Oh yeah.
of
Oh,
the
absolutely.
trail system.
Yeah. All parks would get both soft and hard surface trails when they get developed.
Ball fields. We always talk about Wallace Marine Park being a signature tourism draw for the area and also a way of paying for itself as well. In the parks plan, how is it addressed other than being a large or an urban park or a community park? Do we account for what would happen if we improved Wallace Sports Complex in terms of ability to better fund our parks?
I don't think the plan document gets into that detail on
Exactly.
the softball complex specifically, but we account for the softball fields as part of our facility level service. And certainly, when we look at the funding strategy that we're going to bring back to you later this year, that is a key element because of the economic impact that particular facility pulls in for the community. So from a facility and planning point of view, it's 5 softball fields. But from an economic point of view, it's a key facility for us, and we're going to address that as part of the funding strategy.
And that funding strategy, will that be based upon, which parks we build next or buy next? You showed a map with proposals, so you're
Yes.
going to come back based on greatest need or ability to leverage funds, and we get to kind of have a glimpse of what next couple of parks we build?
Yes, actually, the plan document has an entire list and
Right.
costs of all those parks.
But you don't make a
There-
recommendation in here about which
Right.
ones to build next, right?
No, that partly comes with the SDC methodology, but
Okay.
part of it is just based on our planning criteria, how we plan. Again, we prioritize based on, the most build out, say, around a neighborhood park. Areas like, in an urban park, like an expansion of Wallace or an additional, softball complex or baseball complex, we would identify that from our recreational, level of service table that we came up with and determine where the best suitable land is. For instance, Wallace, we can really use an additional 3 to 5 fields to make us more competitive to obtain tournaments. And ideally, you have those in fairly close proximity to the existing. That's kind of problematic, just given available land, and we're down in the floodway and that sort of thing. So we want to look at all those different criteria to determine where the best place is for that. The plan itself doesn't get to that level of detail, but it sets up the process for achieving that, for us
Yeah.
determining where that should be.
I think I'm just making a comment that I'd look forward to seeing some mention of that, or staff thoughts about that in the funding strategy, because that's really sort of the next. I don't want to go ahead and approve this plan and then find out 6 months later, oops, maybe it should have been in the plan. So I'm trusting that the task force and consultants and staff did a great job, but at some point in time, I want to make sure that, not so much that the Wallace softball complex be addressed, but the whole idea of ball fields and trails. Those, to me, seem to have a tremendous community impact, and I'll be looking to see that we've included everything we can on plan for those 2 items.
I just have a little bit of supplemental to what Keith's saying. As far as in the plan, we've identified in proposed projects, obviously proposed neighborhood, community, and urban parks. And we've also identified needs of major facilities, which would be, for example, synthetic turf fields that are going to cost a lot more than your standard fields. So you figure the average cost of development for the various parks by acre includes the standard facilities. But if you want an extra, we've included an allotment for that. And we've also identified additional ball fields, additional softball field complex in there. So it is identified in this plan, at least on a up here level. Where it ends up on the ground is further down the road.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Other questions? And questions by commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Palmatier?
Yes, I'm curious about the neighborhood parks. I live in the Grant neighborhood, and our school is our park, and it's pretty sad. So I noticed there's a note that denotes that Grant, as well as other school parks, are sites with property access ownership conflict requiring resolution. And I know you can't really use that park during a school day, which renders it not very useful.
Correct.
So what kind of resolution would that take? And, it's cool that we can share that piece of property with the school. I really support that. But the amenities at that particular park, and I don't know too much about the other similar parks, are pretty sad. And so how can we, resolve the conflict and make it a little more attractive? And is that part of the plan? I don't...
Okay. Very good question. The issue we have with a lot of these joint use school park facilities is some parks like Grant, like Richmond, like McKinley,
Sumter.
They're in such close proximity to the active, like the playground recess uses of the school. School doesn't want people on that property, even though it's not theirs, it's ours, well, the city's. We've looked for various ways to solve that. One thing that can help is having, separated facilities. So the school has playgrounds, they have all those facilities they need. What we do a lot is share those resources. That's what puts them off limits. Areas like Grant, that's a tough one because they are really limited in the outdoor space they have. I guess the solution to that specific site is acknowledge that they're not usable all the time, but they're available in the summer and after school hours. We've looked at other options, like can you fence off the two, but it takes away uses, so it's a very difficult one to solve.
Well, it just seems like it's some reason, so it's not fair to call it a park in some ways. It's an available public space, but somebody in the midday can't go over there. It's a problem because there's also no property in the area that could be converted to a park. So
that's right.
It's a kind of a issue that I hope we can figure out over time.
Well, and I would just add too that obviously decisions were made in the past that are tough results that we have to try to resolve. But as we acquire future parks, we don't have as much direction to co-locate parks with schools as much as we used to. That was a trend that the city and the school district went through for a number of years, to kind of co-locate parks and schools. If you look at how we've been acquiring parks lately, they're not necessarily co-located with schools. And so hopefully as development occurs over time, if it's logical that we co-locate, that's a great idea. If we can separate some uses. But it's likely that future parks won't be necessarily tied directly to schools.
Councillor Dickey?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. The task force had a lot of discussion about what you just brought up in terms of if we can't use the park during the school day, should we call it a park? And it is very tough. What do you do with it, especially like in a neighborhood like yours where it's already existing. There's not a lot of available parkland, that you can go outside of. So I'm not sure that we came to a good resolution, but we did have a lot of discussion about it, and so a lot of people share that same concern.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Fox?
Just to further follow up on that same issue. So I guess with that in mind, is it fair to consider a co-located park with a school, a developed park site? Should there possibly be another designation for that particular situation? Because I think it's a little bit misleading when you look at the map. It appears that a neighborhood is adequately serviced, but it really isn't for a good part of the day. Mm-hmm. Is that something that was discussed within the committee?
We actually did look at a school park classification, and you could consider it kind of as a subclass of a neighborhood park, because it is indeed serving the neighborhood function. It's just co-located with a school, or sometimes encumbered by a school. But we did talk about that at the task force level, that we kind of considered a subcategory of neighborhood park.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions? Comments? That's it. All right.
Thank you all so much.
I don't want to shorten up the time, but if there are no further questions, we will adjourn. And maybe if people have individual questions of staff, you have a chance to ask them while they're here. Before I close, however, I would like to recognize Nate Levine, and he would like to say a few words to us. He has been a commissioner for our City Planning Commission for a number of years, and we very much have appreciated his diligence and his attention and his good humor in all of it. Mr. Levine, would you like to address us?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and co-members of the Planning Commission. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the opportunity to be of service. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a reasonably steep learning curve, and a special thanks to Vicki Woods and Glenn Gross, who helped tremendously sorting through the process while you try to figure out the rules of the game. And I just very much appreciate it, and thank you to all.
Thank you for your service. All right, we'll take a recess and then begin our session at 6:30.
I thought, I was like, you know what, my wife's been dealing with it all day.
So hang with us, because believe me, we've got this script down, we think. There will be a few changes. So welcome, and I believe Councillor Blasey, you will be joining us down here. I know you think you want to get off work early. No.
You're still a counselor until your successor is sworn in.
We're going to get every bit of work out of you that we can. Great. Okay. All right, we're going to start with the call to order. Officially, this is the meeting of the Salem City Council for Monday, January 14th, 2013, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to call on Council President Chuck Bennett for additions, deletions, et cetera.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move approval of additions, changes, deletions to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Tessler to approve the additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're now going to have a moment to actually change chairs a little bit, but we're going to administer the oaths of office. And the first one is me. All right. Okay. All right, I think, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very honored this evening to be able to introduce to you my husband of 41.10 years. Come over here.
1.9.
Oh, 41.9. It just seems longer to me. And he's going to administer the oath of office as a senior Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Oregon. He can do that. And it doesn't cost extra. So we'll be doing this. Okay.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Anna Peterson,
I, Anna Peterson,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully, discharge the duties for mayor during my continuance therein.
Thank you.
I don't know, Brandon better not try that.
Thank you all very much. Now, our city attorney, Randall Tosh, will now administer the other oaths.
I wasn't going to try that, but Councilor Nanke, since Councilor Bennett, if you'd like. Okay, I, Chuck Bennett,
I, Chuck Bennett,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully and lawfully,
perform
the duties of city councilor for Salem
perform the duties of city councilor for Salem
during my continuance therein.
therein.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I will need your signatures before the end of the evening.
Okay, thank you.
And how many years is this, Councilor Nagy?
ending 12, going on 16. Fourth term.
Fourth term. If you repeat after me. I, Brad A. Nanke,
I, Brad A. Nanke,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully and lawfully,
perform the duties of city councilor of Salem
during my continuance therein. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Diana Dickey. This is your second term, right?
Technically, yeah.
There we go. Picture time. There you go.
Okay. I, Diana Dickey,
I, Diana Dickey,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully and lawfully,
perform
the duties of city councilor for Salem
perform the duties of city councilor for Salem
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
Congratulations. Now, Mr. Bednarz, new kid on the block. You repeat after me. I, Warren Bednarz,
I, Warren Bednarz,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully and lawfully,
perform the duties of city councilor for the city of Salem
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And again, before the end of the meeting, if you'd stop up and sign those.
Do it now?
Sure.
We're going to be taking a brief recess, but I would like to give Counselor Bednarz, I'm really thrilled to be able to say that, Counselor Bednarz, an opportunity to introduce his family and to make some remarks, as he is really brand new to our chamber and to our efforts. Counselor Bednarz.
Well, this is a real pleasure and a lifetime, actually, dream of mine. I've been coming to this chamber for well over 30 years and standing behind the podium. And this time, I'm on the other side. It's going to feel different, and it should. But I've spent and earned a position because I've been here, and I've worked on it a lot. So first, after that, I want to introduce my wife, who stood beside me for, in fact, this August will be our 30th anniversary, my wife, Linda. And though we have 3 children, I only have one here tonight. This is my daughter, Stephanie. And we have another good friend of mine is Jim Rasmussen, and his mentee, Sophie. We have 3 children. Another one is over in Bozeman, Montana, and our other is participating in some school sports tonight and could not make it.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to you and to your family and your friends. We're looking forward to 4 wonderful years with you on the council. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to recess. There is some cake and a chance to say hello to Counselor Bednarz. Yes?
We need to.
Yeah, we still have 2 things.
Oh,
We have 2 things left to do.
we knew that I would have a little difficulty with this. Shall I hold up to the camera our revised agenda? All right, I do want to call First of all, actually, we're going to have a formal roll call, and then after that, we'll have the election of council president. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Bennett. Here.
Councilor Tessler. Present. Councilor Nanke. Here. Councilor Clausen.
Here.
Councilor Dickey.
Here.
Councilor Thomas.
Here.
Councilor Bednarz.
Here.
Councilor Clem.
Here.
Mayor Peterson.
Here. Thank you. All right. It's the next thing on our agenda is the election of the council president, and I want to take a moment to say how much I depend upon our council president. And the last 2 years, Councilor Chuck Bennett has fulfilled that task, and very ably so, and always been an excellent communicator with the councilors, with the staff, and has really been at my right hand so many times, and my left hand, and together we do things jointly. We co-chair some things, and I just want to say thank you to Chuck, really, for 2 years of exemplary service as our council president. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And now I would entertain a motion for nominations for council president. Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would nominate Councilor Chuck Bennett for
Second.
council president.
It's been nominated by Councilor Nanke and seconded by Councilor Tessler to nominate Councilor Chuck Bennett for council president. Are there any other nominations? Then nominations are closed. I can't remember how if we have to do this by secret ballot, or do we? We ask for a vote. All those in favor of Councilor Chuck Bennett as council president, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we look forward to another great year. That's right. Okay, well done. All right. We are now going to entertain a motion to recess. Councilor Bennett.
I've got just if I may, Mayor, I've got just a couple of motions.
All right, yes, you do. Okay.
Thank you. I move, mine got moved too around a little bit, so it's item 3.2B on your agenda we have moved up, and that is to appoint Councilor Warren Bednarz to the Housing Authority, Commissioner of the Housing Authority.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Tessler to appoint Councilor Warren Bednarz to the Housing Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
One more.
Yes?
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move the appointment of Daniel Benjamin as the Ward 6 Budget Committee member.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Cheryl Thomas to appoint Daniel Benjamin to the Ward 6 position for the Budget Committee. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move the council recess for about 10 minutes, 20
All right.
minutes, whatever.
All right, motion to recess. Do we have a second? All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 10 minutes.
No one signed up for public comment. Is there anyone who wanted to address the Housing Authority? Okay. Commissioner Nanke, the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent calendar.
Second. Great. Mr. Welch, is there anything you'd like to highlight on the program management report?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm really happy to note the business profile article as it relates to Housing and Urban Development awarding the rental assistance demonstration program to the Salem Housing Authority. As you're all very aware, we applied some 2 months ago It's a demonstration program. We're the only project in the state of Oregon, I think, to be honest, though, we're the only project in the state of Oregon that applied. But I'm sticking to my story, which is we're the only project in the state of Oregon that was awarded. 3 projects in Washington, 13 in California, so on the total West Coast, there's only 17 projects, which shows some of the apprehension, I believe, that some housing authorities have across the country for pilot projects through housing and urban development. We, of course, believe that getting in early, having a chance to make our way and get it done right, that we're going to be in a really good position. So over the next several months, there are several critical milestones that we will, as an agency, need to meet. Several of those milestones will clearly be coming back to the commission to contemplate, review, and hopefully pass on for us. So, but we're really excited. We have a transaction manager with HUD. We've had a couple conversations. We're putting a critical path schedule together with them. And I will, by all means, in written report, keep you updated in between the critical junctures where there will be some action items for the commission.
Great. Well, congratulations. Are there any questions for Mr. Welch? Thank you very much. We have no special orders of business or unfinished business or new business, so without objection, the Housing Authority is adjourned.
Well done.
The light, the president.
No.
All right, I will call to order this session of the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Salem for January 14th, 2013. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Tessler?
Present.
Board Member Nanke?
Here.
Board Member Clausen?
Here.
Board Member Dickey?
Here.
Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Bednarz?
Here.
Board Member Clem?
Here.
Chair Peterson?
Here. Thank you. I see no reports of boards, commissions, or committees this evening. For public comment, we do have an individual who signed up, Mark Wigg. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes. The amber light comes on at the end of 2 and the red light at the end of 1.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mark Wigg. I live at 1950 Saginaw Street South in Salem. And tonight, thank you for letting me speak. And tonight you got a glimpse of the park plan, and it was introduced. And I just wanted to emphasize the importance of trails to the city of Salem. And I sent an email to you folks about that. Trails, it has the highest number of users of parks use trails. They also are the #1 thing that people want more of is trails. These are, whether they're paved paths or soft paths, people want more trails. And so far, the implementation plan of the parks plan doesn't give that emphasis to trails. When the Trust for Public Lands were here and they looked at Salem parks, they said, trails are so important, you should have a new brand for trails because they're that important to the public. And you should focus your SDC funds on constructing and building trails, as does their recommendations. The nice thing about trails is that you can put them in without much cost. And Salem doesn't have a lot of money. And so here's an opportunity to involve the public, to get volunteers. They can be done by volunteers. You can put a lot of trails, and I've put in several trails in the city. Parks Department has been really good to work with. When I call them up and say, we need tools, and we need supplies, and we need bark dust, or they show up, and they're there on a Saturday morning and ready to go, and we get volunteers out there, and we build trails. there are so many opportunities in this town to build new trails and to expand trails. I just see that that should be a greater emphasis in the parks plan that is adopted by the council.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Yes, Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mark, thanks for coming down. There's a lot of trails that have been built by folks in parks. Are you prioritizing trails connecting parks or outside of parks, or do you make the distinction in or outside of parks?
Both.
Okay.
Some of them, you know, like the ones that use street right-of-way, that the streets haven't been built, like the Croissant Trail, that's a really nice one. It's technically kind of outside of a park. It's on the street right-of-way. Right. The other really nice one is the Bonneville Power Corridor in West Salem. Right. Goes from the Bonneville Power substation on Highway 22 all the way up to Lincoln Store. All of that land, 100-foot wide easement, is owned by the public. The land within the city limits, you can go out there and walk on that today. Most people don't know that. The city's parks plan calls for, you know, identifies that area within the city limits as a potential trail, and actually the transportation plan does. So it will go from the Eagle Crest area up on top of the bluff above that power station all the way over to the high school. And it's a wonderful area to connect those neighborhoods. What you may not know is that the Salem Hospital owns that big Christmas tree orchard down between the top of the bluff and Highway 22. They've told me they would love it if the city of Salem would accept 14 acres of land underneath the power line corridor and to the west of the power line corridor, and they'll donate it to the city as soon as they can, if the city would accept it. And so then you have from Highway 22 to Michigan Avenue, the north city limits, all publicly owned, ready for public use. That's a nice trail. And there's a lot more like that. George Hutmacher, I talked to him, he has that railroad right away, 3 miles of riverfront in West Salem on the old railroad. He would love to talk to the city about having that turned into a trail. You know, there's so many opportunities in this town. Anyway, yeah. That's it. Thanks.
Are there other questions for him? All right. Well, thank you very much. That's been very helpful testimony, and we appreciate the suggestions and your communication with us and your coming down tonight. Thank you very much. All right. We have no one else signed up for public comment. We have time for council comment. Are there councilors who would like to make any comments this evening? Am I sleeping? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're going to do this right now. We're going to take councilor comments and then we'll move back in commissioner comments. There we go.
Yeah, that's right.
Councilor Tessler.
I'll wait till council.
All right. Okay. Sorry. I'm looking at 2 agendas and I've got more paperwork up here than I think I can handle. All right. Let me get to the right one and we'll, geez. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right. We have a consent calendar.
Madam Mayor, I move the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Clausen to approve the consent calendar. Are there any questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. There are information reports in your binder. If there are any questions from councilors regarding information reports, we have no special orders of business and we have no unfinished business. And we also have no public hearing or new business. So I will adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. And we will now open the meeting for the Salem City Council. Could we please have a roll call? Do we do a roll call again? All right, we're good? All right, the same people are still in the room? Okay. All right. Council comment. Councilors? I believe Councilor Tesler has a comment.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. The other day, I was driving down 12th Street going to work by Willamette, and I was very, very happy to see the very nice pedestrian crossing, which has been installed there, and it's exactly what we had talked about in the beginning. So I don't know where Public Works always gets this money, but thank you very, very much, because we had somebody who was hit by a car there in Cessna, and they were almost killed, and they were really severely injured, and I'm happy to know that that kind of stuff is now going to be prevented, because I used to see people doing the death dash across there a lot, and so this crossing is great. It lights up when people come into it, runs off solar power, it's very visible. Thank you so much, because that was a big concern to people in Ward 2, so that's really nice to see. The 4-hour parking downtown, thank you for implementing that, especially as City Manager Norris and my cohort Chuck Bennett. I think that was a great idea, and I saw a lot of people taking advantage of it, including myself. And then I wanted to thank Salem Hospital for closing the driveway on Church Street. They installed a grass strip there, and it is definitely not for driving or using anymore. That was very helpful, and I do appreciate the hospital cooperating with the neighborhood and working with us to keep that safe and to keep traffic under control there. And that's basically all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Other councilors? Councilor Thomas.
I just want to say thank you to the Public Works folks who did such a lovely job over there in my area. It's looking really beautiful, and it's welcoming and inviting, and I see a lot of my vacant buildings are being filled, which is a good thing. Also, I wanted to mention about the Salem Sabres basketball team, ABA. We have won 3 out of 5 games, and it's picking up momentum every game we have. We're going to have our final home game March 1st at Chemeketa Community College. Want to invite everybody to come out and send it out with a bang so we can look forward to next season.
Wonderful. Councilor Nanki.
Thank you very much. Just, I was invited to do a presentation and encourage people to join our community emergency response team on Friday. 912 group, about 130 people.
Wow.
And they had 3 speakers, myself talking about CERT, a freeze-dried 25-year shelf life food organization for emergency preparedness, so you can have food stores. And then one of their members did a piece on home and personal protection. So always got to push CERT when I can. Doing all I can for you, Roger. But it's a great program, because in the event of mass casualty, you know, strip earthquake off the coast, we're going to be on our own. Our police and fire department are going to have much bigger things to deal with, or they may not even be able to get to your neighborhood. So again, always encouraging people to be prepared, be part of the solution, not the problem.
And if people want to volunteer for CERT, they can find that on the city's website.
Under fire, risk management?
That's right, or you can go to the A to Z and just look under C for CERT.
Excellent. And it has scheduled classes coming up as well.
That's
right. Wonderful. All right. I'd like to make a couple of comments. I'm going to do this a bit off the top of my head to thank, to really highlight, recognize and thank many people in the city of Salem who during the holidays took time from their own schedules and their busy lives in November and December and really provided that extra special touch of holiday cheer and help to many families, individuals, children. I'm going to ask our city manager if you can help me remember the different toy drives and the dinner at the Center 50 Plus.
Yes, and I may ask for Peter Fernandez, our Public Works Director, to help with this, but we have a number of departments who get involved with toy drives, as well as some unions, the AFSCME union in the city, the fire union, police union, all get involved at different times with that. We also have a number of departments and employee groups who do things like kind of adopt a family for the holidays and raise money to help support them. Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about what Public Works has been doing?
Certainly. Well, aside from the union drives, Parks Operations has a very long tradition of raising money at their staff luncheon to help people in need. I think, does the center also raise money, Mark? Yeah, Center 50 Plus also raises money, so it's the staff just does a great job all around.
Great. I was just leaving my offices on Christmas Eve day and ran into our director from the Center 50 Plus, and she had just finished a very special event at Center 50 Plus, a luncheon, and she commented to me that so many of the people at the luncheon said that that was really their Christmas meal. They live alone, and they had no reason, they felt, to prepare something special at home, but it was a very festive afternoon at Center 50 Plus. And I just want to say thank you to all of the City of Salem staff who work so hard to remember other people and to care for other people. So it was great. And now we have a shoe drive. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes, we've discovered last year that there are some children in schools in Salem who can't participate in the Awesome 3000 or the Kids Relay because they literally don't have shoes that they can run in. And so we've taken up that cause, and we have donation boxes around, and it's spearheaded by Public Works and Recreation. And we're calling it 1,000 Souls. SOLES, and there are opportunities for people to donate clean used shoes or new shoes of any size so that we can provide these shoes to children so they can participate in recreational activities, and also just so they have those shoes to use anytime. So we have boxes around City Hall. They're at Ike Box. Peter, do you know some of the other locations?
Yeah, there are. We have other community partners. We're partnered with a student group at South Salem High School. Mark will tell us. And then we have a number of corporate sponsors. The only one I can remember right now is Starbucks. All of the local Starbucks stores also have boxes for donation. Mark, you want to?
Yeah, and we're partnering with South Salem High School, their AVID, AVID program. And what a great bunch of high school students that have dedicated themselves to helping out the community.
Great.
And I'm sure if people had shoes and wanted to drop them off at fire stations or the police department, would be happy to accept them from any place. So
And cash donations as well. Cash donations as well.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any further council comments? Then we have public comment. Do we have anyone signed up this evening? All right, we do. We have two people who've signed up, Jeffrey Ryder and then Sarah Demling. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, the amber light comes on, and then at the end of 3, the red light comes on. And we need your name and address, please.
My name's Jeffrey Reuter. I live at 1357 Marstone Court Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to speak about Agenda Item 7I, the proposed flood mitigation project for Walnut Creek. As a resident of Marstone Court, I've been directly affected by the flooding in that area, and I would be directly affected by the proposed improvements. And I wanted to speak tonight about how important the proposed flood mitigation improvements are to our neighborhood and our community. My street has flooded once a year since 2006. It flooded twice in 2012 in January and in November. It's flooded despite improvements to the stormwater infrastructure that have been made in the area, and it's flooded even when flooding is not otherwise widespread in the city of Salem. This is really hindering the quality of life of neighborhood residents, and it's also posing a risk to our health and safety. And so, again, I wanted to stress the importance of a long-term solution to the flooding problems in our area. I've met with the South Gateway Neighborhood Association's Planning Committee, and there's broad consensus that a long-term fix to the flooding problems in our area is needed. That's why I was so pleased to see that the staff's report included both some short-term action, stream cleaning and vegetation removal, and plans to conduct studies and prepare for more longer-term infrastructure or capital improvement projects. I definitely know that all of you are interested in striking the right balance between cost and speed and effectiveness, actually permanently fixing the problem. And that is, again, just vital to the quality of life of my neighbors and I. I'm sure it's not often that you get members of the public urging you to raise taxes if necessary, but as a ratepayer, I would gladly pay double or triple the stormwater rate I pay now if I could be more secure from flooding, if my family and my young son and my cute little dog would be secure from flooding. I really think that the report that's being provided to the council represents an effective long-term plan. And so, again, I just want to stress, let's not stop with the short-term stream cleaning and vegetation removal. Let's carry on with the longer-term planning, studies, and eventually an infrastructure project to permanently address the flooding issues in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't leave. I think there's a question for you. Councilor Tesler.
I do have a question for you. What kind of, I'm looking at this map, and I'm just wondering what kind of fixes do you, I want to talk to staff a little bit more about stream cleaning, but I just kind of was curious, what kind of fixes do you think would be good? I mean, you live there. I mean, what do you think would work the best?
Well, from talking with Public Works staff and with my neighborhood association's planning committee, I've gotten the impression that a lot of the flooding is caused by a point in Waln Creek where it turns sharply 90 degrees and is extremely narrow.
Right.
And
yeah.
So I think that potentially long-term fixes could include widening the stream or easing out that turn so it doesn't turn as sharply, water doesn't back up. Because the flooding I've seen firsthand is being caused by water building up in the creek so that the storm drains in my street have nowhere to flow, and then the water builds up in the street and then starts building up in my driveway and garage and house. So potentially widening the stream or potentially creating more detention near where I live. That would also have a positive effect, I think. There's some vacant lots near my house that maybe one day could be turned into a stormwater detention area. Or I'm not sure that this is true of me myself, but some of my neighbors have said they'd be willing to sell their houses to the city so that they could be turned into detention ponds. Perhaps you should take that as a gauge of how the repeated flooding has affected their morale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to sell my house to the city right now with the values, but I would just, I'm just curious about this empty piece of land up here. I mean, you could look at things like constructed wetlands and stuff like that. But, we'll chat with staff about that. I was just curious what you thought. I mean, you live there, so, okay, thank you.
Great. Other questions? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your preparation and your coming down and testifying this evening. With the second person we have, welcome, and introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Sarah Doimling. I have a house on Orchard Heights in West Salem, and I have a business in rural Polk County. And I'm speaking tonight to 3.3D, which is, I think, the transfer of some 17 acres of land into park purposes for perpetuity, which is a nice alliterative phrase. And the reason I got interested in this is because I'm interested in the bridge problems and the bridge solutions particularly. And so I'm becoming educated slowly. And when I came tonight, particularly focused on one small triangle that you can see. There's a map on the 3rd page of that testimony, and in yellow, there's a very small triangle between the railroad tracks and Front Street under the Center Street Bridge. And having become somewhat familiar with the 1998 Bridgehead study and the bridge DEIS, it looks like that triangle might be really important for some lower impact bridgehead solutions, which I personally favor over a large and expensive bridge project. And for years, we have thought in using the bridge both for business and for personal use from different directions, that fixing up that stoplight and having a free-flowing ramp off of the Center Street Bridge onto Front Street would be the first thing we would choose and the seemingly simplest thing we would choose. And I was surprised to learn that other people had thought of this a long time ago, and it was in fact possible. So my thought is, I'm not sure if there's an urgency to transferring this land, but if the transfer of this land into parks for perpetuity, which sounds really permanent to me, would make bridge alternatives and bridge planning more complicated, I think it would be imprudent to transfer parcels that have anything to do with possible bridge impacts. So I don't want to come back in a few years and you say, we couldn't do this, and I said, I told you so. So that's just what I want to bring up, and be sure it's on the record that nothing's transferred into something for perpetuity that could be a problem later on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Are there questions from counselors? All right, thank you. We appreciate you coming down this evening and being here to testify. Did you wish to speak?
I thought I signed up to speak.
Oh.
No, you signed up for Parks, it says Parks Plan.
Oh, I see. All right, well, you signed up to speak on the parks plan. Would you rather wait and speak on the parks plan at that time?
Speak on this issue.
You'd rather speak now?
The transfer of land.
I see, but not on that issue?
Already spoken.
Oh, all right, fine. Welcome. I think you know the drill by now.
I do.
Yes,
Thank you.
there's an orange light and then a red light at the end of 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mark Wigg. I live at 1950 Saginaw Street South. And looking at the proposal to transfer those 17 acres from urban renewal to parks, I spent 20 years working with ODOT and as a consultant on transportation plans. Councilor Clem and I even helped select the contractor you currently have for the bridge study, or the river crossing study, when I was with ODOT. One of the things I learned working with ODOT and as a consultant is that parks have a lot of protection. Urban renewal land doesn't have that protection. And if you transfer things to parks and then things change, plans change, bridge alignments change, and suddenly you need parkland. Well, now you've got thousands of dollars and long delays because you have to go through the Section 4F analysis again. You have to look at alternatives to having those impacts. It may be just premature to do this transfer now when you're looking at doing something with these bridges possibly. And if there isn't a real urgency to do the transfer now, and you can wait until you've selected an alternative and figure out what you're doing with the bridges, I just encourage you to do that. Because jumping the gun and putting something into parks and then going, oh, now we got to cross that. Oh, now we have to go back and do all these different studies and try to find alternatives to cross. It just makes a mess, and it costs a lot of money and wastes a lot of time. So I'd encourage you to, if you can, delay it. Delay it.
All right. Any questions by counselors? Thank you very much. All right. We're now going to move to the consent calendar. Counselor Bennett, would you like to entertain a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm going to move the consent calendar with the following polls. 3.3D
3.3D,
by Bennett.
okay. 3.3D.
And Nagy.
Clausen wants to, too. You have any?
Everybody?
Everybody's pulling that one?
Everyone's pulling that one, all right.
Okay, that's it, Madam Mayor.
That's it, all right.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Bennett and seconded by Counselor Clausen to accept the consent calendar with the exception of the item 3.3D, which has been pulled by several counselors, and the record may show who they are. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the public hearing, and I believe that we have a staff person to present.
Actually, go ahead and have, Kathy needs to introduce it, and then I need to address an issue with the council before the staff presentation.
All right, so our recorder will introduce the hearing.
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing to receive evidence and testimony on whether to acquire a temporary construction easement and a permanent easement for a public sanitary sewer on real property located at 1936, 1950, 1980 Wallace Road Northwest through the exercise of eminent domain.
Late this afternoon, the attorney for the property owner, the Clarks, submitted a request for continuance for the hearing because Mr. Clark is not currently in the city. I spoke with Mr. Lean, who's the attorney for the property owners, earlier. He indicated that if we continue the hearing until the next meeting, that would be fine with him. So my recommendation would be to, rather than proceed at this point, we would go ahead and continue the hearing until the next meeting. And so we need a motion, therefore.
All right, Counselor Clem?
Yeah, I would move a continuation of this public hearing until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Clem and seconded by Counselor Bednarz to continue this public hearing to our next council meeting. Is there discussion? Yes, Counselor Clausen.
Just a quick question. So would we delay the staff presentation until that time?
Yes. Go ahead and have all the hearing at once.
Okay.
That's the way to handle it.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have another item under public hearing. Would the recorder please introduce that?
Madam Mayor, there's no introduction. This is a adoption of a council order.
Okay.
So we just need a motion.
So we just need a motion to accept. All right. Counselor Bennett, would you like to make the motion? Or is it Counselor Clausen? Did you
I'll do
want to
it.
make the motion?
Yep, I will.
Okay.
I move staff recommendation.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Counselor Clausen and seconded by Counselor Clem to move the staff recommendation. All those in favor say, oh, excuse me, would you like to discuss your motion?
I have one question of staff. I'm not sure who's appropriate on this one. I'll let the city manager weigh in on that. My question has to do, I was talking with Councilor Nanke for just a minute beforehand. In the findings as written, there's discussion about the harmonious nature of just kind of generally multifamily within the bounds of single family, and that's mentioned in one point on section 2, subpoint B. There's a discussion about that, and then it's also mentioned again on page 4 under section sorry, I flipped over to a different thing and now I'm finding it again. Section F. And I believe a lot of the discussion that was had, at least by me, was that really the issue has been the high-density nature of multifamily in close proximity to single-family, and the inability to phase it out and make a smooth transition. I'm wondering if maybe that RM2 nature needs to be added to the portion that's further up in the front, or is it okay the way it is because it's mentioned further down? Sorry, that's a little convoluted, but I'm trying to wrap my brain around a little bit still.
I'm not sure I understand your point, Councilor Clark.
Well, I think the concern is that I don't want this decision to come across as we can't have multifamily in single-family areas of town. I don't think that's at all the intent. I think the intent is the high-density nature of multifamily being able to transition to single-family.
And I don't believe that the order says that. I think the order says just the opposite. I think the order says that in this particular situation, it was inappropriate, but in other situations, it might well be appropriate.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that's how it reads and that that's how other people see it as well.
And Ms. Woods, do you have any questions about that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion on the floor to accept the staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Would the nays please raise your hands? All right. Councilors Nanke and Councilor Dickey voting nay. Thank you. Motion carries. All right. We have one item that was pulled from the consent calendar. I will move to that now under special orders of business. Item 3.3D. I believe Councilor Clem was among those who pulled. Did you want to make a motion? No, someone else would like to.
Bennett was the first name on the pull list.
All right, Councilor Bennett.
Madam Mayor, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Clem to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to discuss this. I'm moving it merely for discussion. I don't think I'm in favor of this right now. I'm concerned by the discussion we heard from the two folks who testified publicly, and I'm not sure I understand what transfer of the portion of property sort of under the bridge, that triangular piece they showed us, means if it's transferred for park purposes in perpetuity. Does that mean it can't be anything else?
Let me address that.
Good.
There's nothing that government does that can't be undone.
Okay.
And so the question is, what's the process? A dedication is placing property in public trust.
Okay.
And the way to undo a dedication is through a vacation. And so if this property was ultimately needed for another purpose, you could go through a process to vacate that dedication, at which point then you could use it for any other purpose.
Is there some reason that we would just not move this piece of property at this point, or is it it's in kind of an odd limbo because it's urban renewal and not city, and,
right?
And I'm thinking in some ways it may be possible that if we moved it to the city, it would clarify its ownership and give us maybe more control over the property than is.
Well, it would. The issue is that the acquisition of the parkland was part of the Riverfront Downtown Urban Renewal Plan. And because of the limitations that are placed on the use of urban renewal money under the Oregon Constitution, you can't use urban renewal funds for maintenance. So the way it works generally is that the Urban Renewal Agency constructs the project, and when the project is done, it's then transferred to the city that the Urban Renewal Agency operates within. We did it a number of years ago with the parking garages, which had remained in urban renewal ownership long beyond the period of time that they should have. I don't know exactly how this was caught, but recently it was discovered that these parcels were still in the Urban Renewal Agency, although it is Riverfront Downtown Park. And so the purpose of this was really to do what happens with urban renewal projects, is that once you've done them, you transfer them over to the jurisdiction that they lie within. The statement that there's more flexibility with urban renewal land, well, that's not exactly correct, because when the land is purchased for purposes that are within the plan, that's a kind of encumbrance on that land. And so that land has to be used for those purposes, and if it's not, and it's sold, because it was purchased with constitutionally dedicated funds, those funds have to flow back into the same kind of purpose that they were originally used for the acquisition. We're looking at that with the Pringle Creek urban renewal area, where the Salmon Run proceeds are going to have to be used for purposes that were stated in the plan, even though the plan has now been closed. So the purpose of this was to clear up a long-standing issue of ownership of the Riverfront Downtown Park, and to do it in a way that acknowledged the limitations that are placed on that property because it was purchased with tax increment money, and then to use a dedication as a way that it essentially says we're holding this in public trust, and if we're not going to hold it through public trust, we're going to go through a hearing process to allow the public to come in and make their objections known. So that's why it was set up this way.
So if I may, just one last question, Madam Mayor. So the concern expressed by the two folks who testified regarding this, while, the final interest, I understand, maybe we would look at other alternatives around the not alternatives, just look at improving the existing two bridges using that piece of property, is not foreclosed by this transfer.
No.
In no way blocked.
No. You have to go through one additional procedural step possibly, but it's not foreclosed.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Bednarz.
So I spent the last 6 years working on the Salem River Crossing Committee, and one of the big things that came up was Regulation 4F. Maybe this is for planning, but is this a matter of, no matter who owns it, the agency or the city, they're still going to have to face the same thing if some of that land were to be used for, say, bridge acquisition or right-of-way acquisition for the bridge and mitigating problems?
That's correct. It's already a park use, so you'd have to go through that process regardless of who the underlying owner is.
It becomes a moot issue at that?
Right.
Okay.
Councillor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question, when we actually bring park property into the city, no matter where it is, do we tend to use the term in perpetuity?
I apologize, I diverted our city attorney's attention.
Yeah, and that really is a question for the city attorney. It's when we bring parkland into the city.
That's the nature of a dedication.
But, so that's a commonly used phrase as we play.
In the legal world, yes.
Okay.
Excuse me just for a moment.
Yeah. We'll get more funding out of it. Yes, that's what I mean, as the city has more funding out. Yeah, but if that's what we always use when we're dedicating any property. Right away, dedication. Well, yeah, because then we vacated as well. So I just want to make sure that was truly commonly used in everything we're bringing.
Yeah. John, would you take a look at the map? The mayor is looking at the map, and it doesn't look like the triangle portion that she was talking about is even one of the parcels that's being transferred.
I'm not sure which triangle piece you're referring to. Is it north of the bridge?
It's north of the bridge.
It's right in between the two bridges.
It's right there. It's right at the top.
Yeah, but if you look at the tax lot number, the line goes to the parcel that's closer to the river.
I don't think so.
I think that dotted line is the railroad track.
Hey, I bet Clint knows what's
Clint would
happening.
know.
Clint Amron, Urban Development.
Yes,
Councilor
welcome.
Nanki's correct. They have outlined a portion of tax lot 7400, which is the entire square between both bridges. That line is the rail line running through, so it looks like a separate parcel, but is in fact one large parcel.
All right, so what we see in this handout that we received this evening in the yellow, I think is that a trapezoid? Anyway, it's not a separate parcel.
That is, about a little less than half of the entire parcel 7400 on the other map.
Okay.
I see. Here's the whole parcel right here. See, it goes over to here. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that's a railroad, now I get it. It's the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so having clarified what's on the map and what lines are lines and what lines are railroads, would you like to review the motion that's on the floor? No? All right.
No, I move staff recommendation.
All right.
He's
It's-
already done.
Already done, it's on the floor right now.
All right,
Somebody wants to
it's been
amend
moved and seconded to move staff recommendation. Any further discussion? Counselor Tessler?
I have a question.
Just a question.
I have a question.
Do you have a question? Okay.
That's not discussion. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh. It's like, question does not equal discussion usually. Okay.
The answer.
That's true. I'm reading this handout. It's on page 2 of 3, and it says that a separate impact on Riverfront Park would occur from installing a stormwater treatment swale pond facility in the landscaped area located between Front Street and the railroad tracks just east of the Gilbert Discovery Village. Now, this is where I have to plead my ignorance, because I run underneath this bridge, and I did notice that they had planted all that up. So have they started to install something there? It looks like they have installed some sort of swale, now that I think about it.
No, they have not. This is, we're in a preliminary discussion with ODOT to install 3 bioswales in the area. The one they would like to do is in that triangle piece east of the railroad tracks that we're talking about now. The 2 others are on the other side of Front Street, but we are just now in preliminary discussions with ODOT to get that going. So nothing has been done.
Yes, Counselor Tessler.
Are they interested in purchasing said property for this purpose?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
In perpetuity?
In perpetuity?
Counselor Bennett.
So what you're telling us is we are now in the process of selling this land to ODOT, or are we selling an easement, or what are we selling?
We are not in the process yet. We've had preliminary meetings with ODOT that they'd like to establish these 3 bioswales to handle runoff from the bridges. And this is a prime location where they'd like to have one. We've had 1 or 2 early meetings, but we're not in negotiations of any sales so far.
Well, okay, I feel like that kind of is sort of, I know it's disclosed, but it feels kind of buried in this thing, is that we're in the process of selling. This isn't so much we're turning it to parkland, we're in the process of selling it to ODOT.
Yeah.
Just what it sounds like.
Mr. Wells, can you clarify?
John Wills, Urban Development. What the whole concept for this was, Urban Development was looking at properties that either were in our ownership or that could be sold or transferred. All of the park properties that we've got here tonight showed up on that list. We realized that was an oversight long ago. We should have done this long ago. And that was the driver in is to clean up the books so that they were transferred. But in the meantime, there is a conversation going with ODOT. They've expressed an interest on this one parcel, but it wouldn't affect who owns it or what that conversation is.
If I may?
Yes, go ahead.
But if you sell it from the Urban Renewal Agency, the benefit of sale accrues to the Urban Renewal District. If you sell it from the city, where does the benefit accrue? If it's so far away that we're just negotiating this and we do this transfer. I mean, are we losing money out of the downtown urban renewal district as a result of doing this?
It wouldn't go to the urban renewal.
This parcel should be exempted from this motion. If it's being looked at to be sold, this should be exempted from this motion.
Okay. Is that okay? Yeah, I'll, Madam Mayor, I would.
Yes.
Yeah, how do we define it? I need some definition.
Tax lot 073W22 DB 07400.
Okay, I would amend my motion, or just do a substitute motion, if I may.
All right.
Mayor.
Okay.
I move staff recommendation excluding the property identified as 073W22D B07400.
Second.
All right. It's been moved by Counselor Bennett and seconded by, who seconded it over here? Counselor Clem, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We have no unfinished business this evening, and we'll move to the informational reports. There are a number of them in your council packet and on the website, and I draw your attention to those and ask if there are any of those that councilors have questions about. Councilor Tessler.
Yes, I have a lot of questions about 7I, and I would very much appreciate the opportunity to discuss some of these proposed actions in this report a little more in depth.
All right.
Especially regarding vegetation clearing and some of these other somewhat hard structure examples, but I want to talk to staff some more on my own, so I would just like to raise that publicly, that I do have some questions regarding these plans. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Clem.
I did too, and it really was based on Councilor Tessler's questioning of, how do we meander Wallen Creek? I didn't see from what the staff report showed that there was any meandering anticipated, so I'm hoping part of that discussion, that's kind of what I expected to see and didn't. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Fernandez has his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
This is, what is shown in the staff report is not a plan. We don't know what the answer is. What we wanted to report to the council in response to your motion at the last meeting is what we plan to do. And what we plan to do is, first and foremost, is to address the issue the citizens spoke about, how they've had recurring issues out here. You see that Wallen Creek in this area is a very highly impacted creek. It takes several 90-degree turns, which are unnatural, and that's why they cause the flooding. In fact, the map that you have in the back of the staff report actually shows the extent of the modeled flooding that we can expect, and you see that in Marstone Court there is significant flooding in the model, and the model's been borne out by real-life examples. So what we want to do in the short term is, this coming year, is take out a permit to do as much excuse me, to do as much stream cleaning as we can do that is sensitive to what's out there. There's a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, I was out ill today, and I think I'm still ill. That we can address, whatever we can do so that the water conveyance can be improved. The longer-term planning is precisely what Councilor Tessler spoke about. There are a number of parcels here that provide us with the opportunity to create detention basins. So we're blessed in this area to have those opportunities. Those opportunities are expensive. They can run upwards of $200,000 an acre when it comes to acquisition and actual construction, but it's something that we absolutely want to look at. We can't do that by the summer. So we're going to start, what the other part of what this staff report says, thank you, Mark, is we're going to start that planning process and then go through the permitting process to see which is the best opportunity. Is it the big parcel here to the northeast? Is it this smaller parcel at the corner of Woodside and Mildred? There's some other parcels down here, so there are a lot of opportunities to do precisely that. The other thing is we can look to acquire pieces of the storage sheds and take out some of those 90-degree curves. So it's all cost benefit and to see what's most appropriate. So all of that is in our minds. Nothing is established. All we're reporting is we understand the issue. We're going to do a little bit of work this summer, as much as we can do that's sensitive to the neighbors, sensitive to the environment. But the big work really this coming year is planning and permitting work, not construction work.
Okay, Councillor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Rutter. He and his neighbors experienced some seriously emotional trauma out there over the past years, and then to be flooded 2 times in 1 year with water inside of houses is not fun at all. And, you know, I think what's got to be stressed is we have a utility problem. It happens to be a stream, but our stream is our stormwater utility in this community. That's just how it works. And staff did exactly what we asked of them at our last meeting, which was come back with, do a little bit of preliminary research, see what we can do this summer, and then moving on into the future. And as they started digging into it, and Mr. Fernandez pulled me into a meeting with a couple staff members to talk it through. And yeah, there's just so many more questions, as Councilor Tessler brought it up. And so I want to make sure we do this right. I appreciate the other councilors' questions and such, because I think it shows that we're all concerned about it. And we got to do it right. And you know what? Let's sell the Wiltsey Park property and buy this other one, and we can combine. There's so many options on the table. So many options. And I think we just need a little bit of time. I like the direction the staff report is headed. And, I'll just be watching for it in future CIPs and hoping to hear about it as we move forward in the future.
Councillor Nanki.
Mine are on different items unless somebody else wants to speak to this one.
All right, are we through on this particular one? All right, Councillor Nanki,
2 questions.
go ahead.
One on 7D in regards to the Child Development Center.
Mm-hmm.
The conditions just confuse me in the respect that condition 1 speaks to parking spaces per square footage, as well as bicycle parking spaces per square footage. And then condition 2 actually identifies an actual number of bicycle parking spaces required. So why did we have it in the first one? Or why don't we say condition 3, this is how many car spaces you have to have? Just seems duplicative. By saying you have to have one for this amount of square footage for bike parking, and then we tell them how many bike parking spaces they have to have as a separate condition.
I'm going to let Mr. Gross answer that question.
He loves the opportunity.
Glenn Gross, Planning Administrator. Councilor, I'm not entirely sure that I understand your question. Could you?
Sure.
I hate to
In
bog you,
condition
but could
1,
you
we
state it again?
say, as the second part of that, 1 bicycle parking space per 3,500 square feet of gross floor area. Condition 2, a minimum of 3 bicycle parking spaces are required for the proposed use. How many square feet of gross floor area are in the facility?
I just need a minute to check that out.
Because one of them sounds like they don't belong there.
Can you come back to me?
Sure. I can actually hit my my second question, which has to do with, as long as our chief is still here, item number F, in regarding the narrow banding on the police radio.
Yes, her chief is still here.
And we're getting a 6-month waiver. Can the systems be operated dual purpose, where we have narrow banding and wide banding operating? Or are we going to have to bust the system at times just to go narrow banding and then test to make sure that we can penetrate certain buildings, or at least find out the extent of the difficulties?
Jerry Moore, Chief of Police. We initially tried narrow banding, and we kept one channel wide band, if you would, and we had terrible results when we went to narrow banding. So both channels right now are neither of them is narrow banded. The FCC has been in the area. They believe they may have found the interference that was causing the issues on narrow banding. We are going to do some extensive tests, however, before we make any switches back to narrow banding. We're going to test the channel that was narrow banded as our primary channel for a short time, and then we will look at narrow banding it if we don't have any issues. We do have significant concerns that if we have issues like we had before, that we're going to have trouble narrow banding, but we're hoping that FCC found the interference and eliminated it, so we should be okay.
Okay, yeah, it was whether or not we could operate that, and what are our odds on actually being successful in the testing? Are we looking at potentially having to ascend again? Can we get everything done we need to in 6 months?
Right, I don't know. Quite frankly, we did not think we would have issues when we narrow banded, and we did. So we, with the FCC's assistance, hopefully we found the interference, and if that is the case, narrow banding should go smoothly, but I'm just going to tell you that's going to happen.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Well, I think the reason the condition is stated kind of in two ways is that, first of all, the standard is 1 bicycle space per 3,500, as it says. In the decision, you'll see that the size of the site of the floor area is 11,300 or so, which would, if you divided the 3,500 into that, you would get about 3 spaces. So that's where that comes from. I suspect the reason that they put condition 2 and said the minimum shall be 3 spaces is the plan didn't show any, and so a condition is added. So even though they're approving the plan with that condition, it didn't show the 3 spaces, but with the condition, it's approved, so that at the time of building permit, the staff will check to make sure that there's 3 spaces provided. So I think that's the reason it was stated in effect twice. That's the best I can come up with.
Follow-up question, if I may, just in regarding to bicycle parking spaces, because when we were kids, we just ride our bikes up and kind of put them wherever. How formal is a bicycle parking space?
How formal?
Yeah. And do we require them of all development?
It's as formal as a car parking space. It's a requirement of the code to promote alternative modes of travel.
I mean, because I see, a bike rack here or there. I know at work, we just put one there. We don't have any dedicated bike parking spaces, to my knowledge.
Well, that's why the staff is going out of their way to specify that there's a minimum required, and that the permit won't be approved unless those spaces are shown on the plan.
But the rack is the space. So if the rack allows for 3 bikes, for example, then those are 3 bicycle parking spaces.
Yeah.
Okay, and they can be on any impervious or pervious surface?
They're normally placed near the entryway. So yes.
But we don't have
standards per se.
standards.
Not design standards.
Okay,
no,
that was my original
Okay,
question.
all right. Yeah.
Is it formally defined outside of? You just have to have a place.
Just the number is defined. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, were there further questions on that particular item?
Put it in the field.
All right, are there other items, information items in that category that counselors wanted to raise questions? Excuse me. I have a couple that I would like to ask a couple of questions on. One is with regard to the Child Development Center case. I did read through the hearings officer's report and the staff report, And I was just curious, because it indicates that they require 6-foot high landscaping or shrubbery around the play area. And I'm wondering if that's something that the school would specifically want. I'm thinking about safety as in, i.e., can you see what's happening to the children if you can't see the children? And I'm just wondering if we're being so specific that we're telling the school that they have to put this screening around the play area, when actually that may be detrimental to the children in the play area. But I don't know, because there's no map here, I don't think, maybe there is, to tell me where the play area is in relation to the rest of the school building, or entrances or exits.
Glenn Gross again, playing this here. The screening requirement is a code requirement. The proponent could have requested relief from that. They didn't, so apparently this works for them. But there is a way to get relief for that if there was an issue with it. So, and the site plan is included, but I concur with you. It's not easy to see where the play area is.
Yeah.
It's on the. It would be the. I don't even see a north. Yeah, so it'd be on the east side of the site. There's a little square there.
Oh, I think it's right there.
Yes.
Okay.
Hard to read. Sorry.
Well, obviously then, if the operators of the school have an opportunity for any sort of waiver of that, that would come up at the time that they're...
That should have come up already if they had an issue with
okay.
it, and then we would have addressed that with the approval of this. So I think we're okay there.
Okay. All right. Just a curious question on my part. I had a question on the item G, the draft community forestry strategic plan. I wanted to say thank you to all of those individuals who volunteered their time and worked with the city on that plan. I could tell just from the size of the draft that we received that there was indeed a lot of work on this, and I think it's very important work. Will this next come to the council in a work session, or how are we going to further deal with this?
Yeah.
Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to recognize Patricia Farrell, who was the staffer that worked with the citizens for over a year, I think, right? To put this together. This was an outgrowth of the, every 10 years by code we have to do a tree cover study.
Right.
And we did our second one a couple of years ago when we decided to take the extra step of saying, well, okay, we didn't lose any canopy, but now what? Should we be working towards it? So we put this group together to help us. What we wanted to do, there's been a lot of excitement in the community to have Patricia go out and speak to this. The council had not seen it, so we wanted to bring it to you so you at least knew as you start seeing it at neighborhood associations and at other places. Our plan is to, in fact, bring it back after the budget season, so probably sometime in May, and we'll either do a work session or a management report or something. And I think what we'd like to do is perhaps have council adopt the goal of the study, which is to increase the canopy by the percentages shown in the plan, which is really the crux of the plan. And as you look through it, it was very important to us that everything in the plan be done in a non-regulatory way. So everything is about incentives and opportunities, but not about more regulation. So this gives you the opportunity to read it, absorb it. We're going to put it out into the community, see what other comments we get back, and then we'll be back May, June with some kind of request for adoption.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the last thing I wanted to mention on information reports is actually 7A, our council goals update, and I really appreciate staff work going through that and noting all of the activity, and I encourage council to look at that, and I'm sure it will become the basis or part of the basis as we move forward for our goal setting, which we will try to be scheduling in maybe February if we
That's
think
what
we
we're
think
hoping.
that January can't take another night, but we're hoping to begin some council goal setting, as we've talked about, particularly goal setting by our three different agencies: the housing, the urban renewal, and then the council. So just save that for further use. Okay. We have a couple of ordinances on our agenda this evening. For a first reading, would the recorder please introduce that?
Ordinance Bill Number 3-13, declaring certain territory located at 1189 Reese Hill Road Southeast, annexed to the City of Salem, prescribing zoning, and withdrawing the territory from the Salem Suburban Rural Fire Protection District.
All right, is there a motion? Councillor Bennett.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Clausen to move the staff recommendation, which will advance the ordinance for a second reading. Is there any discussion? First reading. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And the next ordinance?
Ordinance Bill Number 4-13, relating to the expiration and extension of subdivisions, partitions, replats, and urban growth area development permit preliminary declarations, amending SRC 63.049, 63.360, 66.050, 66.070, and 300.860, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Councillor Bennett?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the staff recommendation to schedule a public hearing on this ordinance bill.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Tessler to accept staff recommendation to schedule this ordinance for public hearing. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We have no second readings this evening. Is there anyone here for public comment at this hour? All right, none at all. And under new business, the mayor's item, you find a motion, I believe, or an item, yes, a motion in the notebook. And I'd like to have a chance to explain a little bit so that you understand what it is that we're going to try to achieve. Every year, the City of Salem, through the mayor, presents a State of the City address, and the live audience consists of the Salem City Club, the Salem Rotary Clubs, and the Salem Chamber of Commerce. Having delivered that speech twice, it occurred to me that we need to really bring it into a more modern age than just the talking head of the list of all the things that we've done in the last year. And it's my suggestion, and I've received strong support for this from the audiences from the three organizations. I've met with each of their leaders, and that we could bring a very brief 5 to 6 minute visual report of the major achievements and some of the particularly more noteworthy developments or successes of the last year. We could do that through a video that would be presented before I actually deliver the speech, and then the speech itself would be focused more on our plans now. By the way, I should tell you it's February 20th, and so I would assume begin our planning, our goal setting by then. But it would be more focused on what we have ahead of us rather than a laundry list of what we've done in the last year. I also intend to supplement the visual and the auditory with a list of accomplishments that have happened in the city, much like a gold report that some clubs and some organizations produce on an annual basis. What I'd like to do with the video is have that produced to be such a vehicle that can go on the city website. Anyone from the city and from the council can use that as they're making public presentations, and it would be sort of a cornerstone for us moving into maybe a more modern way of describing to the public what it really is that the city does. So that's in a nutshell, the idea for the video. Yes, Councillor Dickey.
I have a question, but
yes.
Do you need to make a motion first?
Yes, we do. I do need to make a motion, and so I move that the council approve funding for the State of the City video, which will be used also in other ways. And I believe that there is an estimate in the binder for that from the Allied Video, which you will see for. Thank you. $4,305 to produce the finished video, 5 to 6 minute video. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by the mayor, myself, and seconded by Councillor Clem to approve the funding for the video at $4,305. Is there discussion? Councillor Dickey.
Yeah, thanks. I actually have two questions. One from staff. Where's this account at?
So it would come out of the mayor and council budget from its special events, and I think there's about 13,000 left in that account.
Okay, and so then a question for you, Mayor, and thank you for being kind of forward-thinking on, trying to find some way to make this more up to the 21st century. So I appreciate that. And I'm not really sure exactly how to ask this, but because this sounds like it's not just something that we would just show one time and then be done with, I'm wondering if you have a sense for how, I guess what I'm wondering is a video that's made that's shown, will it be outdated in 6 months or a year? I mean, will it show like half-constructed things that just a few months later would be finished and then it's outdated? Or, I mean, what's your thought of how long this video would be able to be circulated?
Well, I would think that it would certainly be good for a year at least, and accompany the text of the State of the City address, which is also always put on the website and given to the Statesman Journal, etc. But I would think that we would focus more on projects that have been completed, parks that have been finished that we did ribbon cuttings on, infrastructure projects, major businesses that have had a real successful experience with the city, with all of the permitting and that sort of work that's been done with the city.
Thanks.
Okay. I welcome your questions, and those are great questions, and they help me to explain what it was I had in mind. Councillor Thomas and then Councillor Clem.
In deciding to go with this company, is there any way that CCTV would be able to do this at a cheaper rate, or?
Well, my experience with doing this type of a video is that Allied Video sort of has a template in that they've done so many of these videos for community events that then the community organizations put it on their website, and then they use it and it can be modified. And so that's why I really favored using Allied Video for this project.
Thank you.
Councillor Clem.
Yes, I appreciate very much you wanting to promote Salem. I mean, that sounds like that's what we're doing here in terms of tourism and business, but quality of life is issues that would be used to attract people to this area. We still have 14% of our population that go up and down I-5 every day. Why not live here? So, I think understanding that the intent of the video is for us, the board of directors of this municipal corporation to provide an annual report, but really a look forward that can be used to attract business, agriculture, tourism, people to move here. I think it would be a great thing. So I look forward to this sort of looking forward effort, regardless of how it comes out. But I appreciate you using the state of the city. It looks like it's going to be what will be the state of the city kind of address, which is exciting. So I applaud you for it.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bednarz.
I just want to reiterate Thomas's point. I think it would be great to have this. I think it'll be a good template for CCTV to work on next year.
Well, we could certainly entertain that.
We have the facilities, why not use them?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other question or discussion? All right, it's been moved by me, the mayor, and seconded by Councillor Clem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, I think that concludes our business for this evening. We have one more. Well, as soon as I find my agenda. All right.
It's on addition.
It's on the additions, Mayor.
Oh, it's on the additions. All right, thank you. We do have an item on new business added to the agenda, the letter of support regarding Governor Kitzhaber's request to analyze the impacts of coal exports to Asia. Councillor Dickey, would you like to introduce this?
Thanks. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor, on behalf of the City Council, to submit the attached letter to the office of Governor John Kitzhaber to affirm the council's support of the governor's call for federal agencies to examine the impacts of coal exports to Asia.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Dickey and seconded by Councillor Thomas. Was it? I'm sorry, Councillor Tessler. If I'm not looking up, it's difficult for me to know who is speaking, so I apologize. I knew it was a woman. Give me that credit.
That's a good start.
That was a good start, and it was a 50-50 guess, so all right. It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councillor Dickey.
Yeah, so I brought this motion forward because I've had a lot of contact with members of the public, both my constituents and others, that have concerns about the potential impact of coal exports coming through Salem via a train down to Southern Oregon. There's a lot of questions about this. There's a lot of questions as to whether that will even happen through Salem. Will it go a different direction? Is there a timeline attached to this? What are the environmental impacts? There's just a lot of unknowns about it, and you can read the letter yourself, but the governor has called for, is encouraging a environmental impact study for the area, and I just thought it might be a good idea if we went on record to say we support that, just to answer some of those questions. I think I want to be really clear that I am not asking the council to take a position on this issue. I'm just saying we just want to know, when those environmental impact studies and other studies are done in a formal way, can we get that information back so that if we do have to make a decision at some point, we have the information that we need. And also just to make it clear to the public that, yes, we are aware of this issue. I know there's other governmental agencies and elected officials around that have taken various positions or had similar requests to this. I'm just asking that we affirm the governor's request for that, and that he and his office continue to send us information as they get it about this. So that's basically why I'm doing this. And I want to also just say thank you to our Deputy City Manager, Casey Duncan. When I explained to him what I wanted to do, he really helped me out with this, so I really appreciate that. It kind of hit the nail on the head of what my intention was.
Excellent. Councillor Clem.
Thank you. The letter that Governor Kitzhaber sent, is that in our packet? You'd indicate attached letter, so I didn't know if it was the mayor's letter you were referring to that's been referred to, but I haven't seen the governor's letter, so I'm not aware of. That's the mayor's letter.
Yeah, that's a draft for the
I don't know what
mayor's
Governor
letter.
Kitzhaber has asked the federal agencies.
Do we have that
for.
in our file somewhere?
We have that in our files. It's not attached here,
Right.
though. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we should
This is the
have
letter that is the attachment.
Right, but I don't know what the governor asked
The-
the federal agencies
So-
to do. So if we have a copy of it, I'm happy to vote on this and look at it later. I just want to know what the governor asked. So.
Councillor Dickey?
Yes, I think we can get a copy of that, but basically, it's what is in the letter, that would be the letter to him, to ask the Secretary of the Interior to have the Army Corps conduct a comprehensive environmental impact study.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, again, I'm in
But we can get
support
the formal request for that.
Yeah, I don't know what he's asked them, so, other than what you've said,
Yeah.
so.
Councillor Clausen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, I like the idea of getting the results of that study, but I can't support the letter the way it's written because I don't like the second and third sentences in the first paragraph. They very much take the angle that there are potential impacts of coal and such. The whole point of the study is to find out if there are. If we were to say the council expresses interest in the results of a study on the potential impacts of coal exports on our region, the state, and the city, I'd be okay with that. Also, I don't know about the potential ramifications of an EIS on, we all know what EIS means from our bridge and how impactful just that process is on our area. I'm concerned about saying that I support an EIS to talk about the environment, community, economy, transportation system, and energy audit. It's just too much. I'd say, hey, yeah, send us some results of the study. If you guys get them, I'd be interested in them. But I don't want to say that I support all that stuff. It's just more than I'm willing to say in a letter from the city.
Councillor Bednarz and then Councillor Nanki.
I concur with the same thing, that I think, in fact, this letter is a little too pointed for my taste. And it does say that the city council, whereas we may not be taking an overt position, it definitely expresses a tone that it says this is the direction we're leaning. So I cannot support the motion as it stands.
Okay. Councillor Tessler?
Well, I will be supporting this letter, and I will be supporting it wholeheartedly because I do believe there are impacts from coal. I've been to Virginia. You know, I've seen horrible impacts from coal, and I think there would be massive impacts if these trains did come through Salem. Those cars will not be covered. If there was a spill, if there was dust, you would see impacts. And so I'm going to support this letter, and I think that we should send this letter and we should express our concern. And in my view, that's exactly what we're doing, is we're expressing our concern. And I think that our governor, as the elected representative of our state, should express these concerns to the Corps of Engineers. So that's why I'm going to support it.
Other councillors had their hands up. Councillor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Clausen pretty much said it in a nutshell. The way it's worded says we're sure there's a problem with it and that it's going to, you know, impact all of these things when, you know, we've had discussions with members of the public after the meeting at times before that we're waiting to see what the governor is doing. I don't have a copy of his letter. I don't know what he's asked for. Is he asking for, you know, comprehensive study to find out on our energy security because of a train going through Salem? That's a little... I want to know if something's going to happen in Salem, sure. And we don't know how these train cars may be covered. Is anything going to come off them? That's the answer I think we need to know before we do anything, rather than say, how does it affect our energy security? We can kind of guess that. We're shutting down all the coal plants in the country, so it has no effect on our energy security because we're not using it. If you want to get into that end of it, which I don't really. I want to know if something is going to have drag out as it moves through our city, if in fact it comes through. But we don't even know if that's, and that's kind of why we were waiting to find out what the governor was doing. But to put a letter out with all these other items, to me, is actually taking a side in a fight we don't even know if it's going to take place.
Okay. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the letter. I have read the governor's request. It's absolutely as represented by Councillor Dickey. He's asking for a comprehensive environmental impact statement on running, if it proceeds this way, on running coal through these communities. Apparently, you all don't live by the railroad tracks. I do, and my neighbors do, and my neighbors are concerned. Now, whether justifiably, we will find out. But right now, this is about as limited a request for information as I've ever heard. There is not, this doesn't say anything about burning coal or energy security. This just says, look, take a look at what it does to energy security. If you're concerned about it, it may well represent part of the discussion, that this has a detrimental effect on energy security, not to move coal through here. I mean, you can take this and twist it around, I think, to make it say anything you want. It's pretty straightforward. Does it have an effect on our environment, our community, our economy, the transportation system, and energy security? And you can read that, all of those both ways. It has no effect on the environment. It's good for our economy. It helps our transportation system. And oh, by the way, we have almost no voice over what goes down those tracks anyway. And it would improve energy security, or vice versa. I think it's a misread of what's said here as I'm listening to this discussion. I'd really encourage you to support this. It's pretty straightforward stuff. There's nothing real exotic contained in this letter.
Other comments? Well, the comment that I would like to make is that I would not want to send a letter to anyone that is so worded that it could be interpreted one way or another. If the letter comes from me, it needs to be very clear, very easy to understand, very acceptable to this council, and I don't mean to just some and not to all, because we as a city are saying to the governor, this is what we support you doing, or this is what we want you to do. I would want to say it in language that's very clear and very neutral, because we don't know the facts. We don't know for certain what will happen and how the coal would be transported, if it would be transported through here. There are so many things we don't know that if I were to sign a letter, it would need to be redrafted so that it would be at least easy to interpret, so that everybody would know very clearly what we're saying in the letter. And then I would sign a letter like that. Councillor Bennett?
Yeah, I'm just going to this is straightforward. If you want to twist it, no, if someone wants to twist it, you can do it. You can do it with almost anything, and that's what's going on. This is so straightforward and so light compared to what we're being asked to do by so many of our constituents. I just have real trouble that this somehow isn't straightforward. I think that's also, I mean, I'm going to compliment Ms. Duncan and Councilor Dickey. This is straightforward. This says exactly what it says. And it just it says to the governor, we support what you're doing, Governor. That's really all it says. So, yeah, we'll have a divided council apparently, but it's the wrong division, because I think this just gets worse as we let this float along. This does not get better as our constituents get increasingly concerned for lack of information, and all Councilor Dickey is doing is asking for information. And right now we haven't got it, and we're going to have people increasingly concerned, and then it becomes chickens, or it becomes some other issue like that, and we start having this place crowded with people who are very upset.
And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
So
Councillor Clausen and then Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would be happy to agree with something if the wording was changed. I disagree with Councilor Bennett. I feel like when I read this, it's pointed, and I'm happy to get a neutral request for information. That's totally fine with me, but not saying something that we appreciate the recognition of potential impacts of coal. Basically, we appreciate the slant that there is the potential impacts of coal. I'd rather, and I'm fine. If we reword it, I'll be good, but not like it is now.
Okay. Councillor Clem.
Madam Mayor, councilors, if council wants to express its concern, then it should do so. I think it would be better for all of us if maybe the mayor and Councilor Dickey and Casey got together and came up with something that the mayor would be willing to sign. And so I'm not suggesting that other folks do more work, but I guess I am. I think if we want to express our concern, we should do so in a manner that most of the council will agree to. So I would just suggest that, or offer a substitute motion that the mayor and Councilor Dickey and appropriate members of council, even, if you want to wordsmith it, so that we eventually write a letter that it be something that at least the mayor and Councilor Dickey can agree on.
Councilor Dickey.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I never said I was concerned about this issue. I said I wanted to get more information about it. So I'm not sure where that's come out of. Where the letter talks about potential impacts, it doesn't say positive impacts or negative impacts. So there will be an impact if this comes through Salem. It could be positive, it could be negative, we don't know. I guess some of you are reading the word impact as being negative, or you're reading something into it that's not there. I happen to know that of one community that thinks it will be a positive impact on their economy. And so, and I don't know if they've done an EIS or anything, but I think that, it really could go either way, and there could be positives and negatives on both sides. We don't know how it's going to come out. So I'm a little confused as to why some of you are reading something into this that I do not believe is there. I heard the word concern thrown around. I heard you guys some of you saying that impacts, you thought that we were taking a position. I said right up front, we are not taking a position on this. I don't want us to take a position on this until we get the information from this report, and that's all that this asks for. It doesn't tell the governor that we support coal trains coming through Salem, or we don't support coal trains coming through Salem. All it's doing is asking for the information that he gets on what those impacts will be if that happens, both positive or negative. So I think really we're just acknowledging that this is an issue. A lot of people have raised it, and I think we would be very remiss to not ask for some basic information on this. And no, I am not willing to sit down and wordsmith this, because this says exactly what I wanted it to say, and I have no intentions on changing the wording in it at all.
Councilor Thomas.
I support this motion. We've had several groups come in here and present to us packets of information in regards to their research on this coal. Is there a deadline that the governor has before this letter is submitted or this request is submitted? Because if so, to have it redid may take more time before it comes back to us, before we have to approve it. So I don't see the issue either. I mean, it's straightforward. So I support the motion.
Councilor Clausen.
Madam Mayor, I don't think we're going to wordsmith it on the floor. I'd say let's
No.
just call for the vote, and unless somebody wants to make a substitute motion, but we'll just go for the vote, it's fine.
Well, it's fine to call for the vote, but I'm the mayor and I'm not signing this letter the way it's written right now. I never sign a letter that goes out of this city unless I truly understand what's in the letter and know that the way I'm saying it in the letter is the way I mean it and the way this council has represented an issue to me. Right now, we're very divided. I can tell that. But I'm not going to take a vote and have the majority of council tell me to write a letter, to sign a letter that I don't approve. So I think we're maybe at an impasse. We may have a point of order, but if somebody may have a substitute motion or some other suggestion. Councilor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we're going to go that in-depth, to Councilor Dickey's concern, the reason why I read this with concerns is the first sentence says, the whole reason for the letter is expressed concerns by constituents, which is a negative. So the first opening statement is a negative, which then couches the rest of the study to study the negative. So that's the issue. So do we want to just get information, or do we want to pursue a potential negative impact to our community? That's where it is. That's why I'm a no vote. So I'll propose a substitute motion if we're at an impasse, just to get us out of here, that we send it back to staff and Councilor Dickey for wordsmithing, and we can approach it at the next meeting.
Councilor Tessler. Oh, excuse me, there's a motion on the floor. Was there a second? Second. It's been moved by Councilor Clausen and seconded by Councilor Clem to send this back to staff for further working. Councilor Dickey has said she will not wordsmith this, she will not change this, but in your motion, you're directing that that's what happens. I don't feel comfortable directing her to do something if she doesn't want to do anymore than I feel comfortable.
I appreciate that,
Somebody's directing me to do something I don't
I'll
want
amend
to
my
do.
motion
So,
to send it back to staff.
all right. And you're seconding that motion? Second. All right. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Tessler, did you have your hand up?
Don't we have to vote first?
Yeah.
No,
But I just, further discussion.
On the vote.
No,
All right.
I just, I thought that's why we were elected, to voice the concerns of our constituents. I mean, why else are we here? I mean, really, why do we come here if we are not expressing the concerns of our constituency? I mean, why are we here, really? I mean, that's the foundation of everything we do in this place, is to express the concerns of our constituency. And that's exactly what we are doing. And I would suggest that if this doesn't pass tonight, that every counselor here tonight who wants to support this, I think would be free to sign their name on a letter that we could send. And I would be happy to do that. Because I wouldn't want anybody to do something that their conscience would dictate them not to do.
That's fine. Councilor Bennett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do want to, I'm going to vote no on this. I think it is such a total, what I've heard discussed is such a total mischaracterization of what's said in that letter. Yep. It is absolutely complete. It does not express opposition. I'm not there on opposition. I think it is, and so it is, I think, an extraordinarily divisive debate to suggest to characterize this one way or the other. I think it is so neutral and so straightforward. I'm just absolutely not going to go along with somehow this is a negative statement regarding this activity, whether Coltrane should or should not go through town. That just is absolutely false as to what that letter proposes to say. Mm-hmm. I think some folks didn't read that letter. That's what's got me concerned.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. I think I need a Robert's Rules of Order here. Do we have a motion to revise the letter, or do we have a motion to send it back to staff?
That's what's on the floor right now.
Okay. All right. There's a motion on the floor to send the letter back to staff and then bring that back to council. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Would nays please raise your hands? The no votes are Councilor Bennett, Councilor Tessler, Councilor Dickey, and Councilor Thomas, and the ayes have it. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. There's no further business. We are adjourned.